Hi guys, welcome to a grade 9 video on the witches, particularly in Act 4 Scene 1. If you are looking for a 7 to 9, then this is the video for you. Have your notepad ready. If you do need my other videos on the supernatural, then check it out. I guarantee you will learn something here that will make your answer original. If you need me on Instagram, it's at Stacey Ray, YouTube Stacey Ray, and my website is also there, www.staceyray.co.uk. It might be a good idea for you to have the start of Act 4 Scene 1 in front of you. Now, if you were given Act 4 Scene 1 as an extract, which would be tricky, you've got to know the play contextually anyway. So contextually, you will know where we are. You will know that Macbeth has gone back to seek the witches. So there's already a change, because at the start of the play, they were waiting for him on the heath. Okay? This part in the play, he seeks them out. So there's been a bit of a change now in terms of Macbeth and the dynamic with the witches as well. First things first then, as I say, have this extract in front of you, and I'm just going to break down the key things that you should comment on and the key language. Now, the other thing you can do, guys, as well as if you're given the witches at the start or you were asked generically about the supernatural, is use these references. Because to get a 7 to 9, we need to avoid the obvious and we need to be judicious. As you well know, judicious responses is how we get up there, seeing things that not every Tom, Dick and Harry in England is going to say. One of the key words, guys, that they mention is the word harpy. Now, as you well know, if you are a fan of mine from Instagram and YouTube, that is from Greek mythology, the harpies, all right? So the harpies in Greek mythology are these three creatures. They have a female face, but they have wings, they have claws. Now, what we want to do is we want to chart where they've come from in order to understand what they are doing in this section of Macbeth. So, originally, okay, as always, Zeus creates or controls the harpies. They are a form of punishment to mankind. They are called the Snatchers, right? So Zeus, because obviously they're working for him, gives them this power whereby they snatch people and they take them into the underworld. They take your soul and they drag you into the underworld, hell. All right? So straight away, when you are looking at a 7, the Greek mythology, i.e. harpy, where this word has come from, is telling you that they have snatched away Macbeth's morality. They have taken away his moral compass, his ability to value things that we as human beings value. And what they have done is, by dragging him to the underworld, is two things. They have ensured that he suffers eternal punishment, but they also snatch away the moral being and the moral centre and the moral fibre of him, and they replace it with what would be left, which is immorality. The other thing, guys, about the harpies is they are called the ministers of the thunderer Zeus. I'll say that again. The ministers, if you can say that there, of the thunderer Zeus. Because obviously Zeus, if you see Greek mythology, holds thunder and lightning, doesn't he? He strikes it down. The first word of this play is thunder and lightning, because the witches have that pathetic fallacy. The first word of Act 4 Scene 1 is about the thunder, and in come these witches who have been using vocabulary about the harpies. There's 3 harpies with female faces, interesting link to the 3 witches. I actually think there's something in there for a grade 9 A-level response about, are they a version? Are they a version of the harpies? And here's another, I don't want to say it, knowledge bomb for you guys, but the Weird Sisters comes from the Greek word wired. The Wired Sisters in Greek mythology control fate. The harpies in Greek mythology snatch things away from people. We have got Greek mythology in abundance by Shakespeare here, and we should use it. The other thing in terms of the word harpy, not only are they the ministers of the thunderer Zeus, they are also the guardians of the underworld. So if if, for instance, you get past Cerberus, the three-headed dog, you've got these three women. Massive. Three women, much like the witches, linked to the witches at the gates of the underworld. Lady Macbeth's going to talk about the knocking at the gate. These three are called the Juggling Fiends. They are acting on behalf of Satan. It's all there for you. A full mark original response whereby you don't need to say the obvious thing about the witches. They control him, or it's the witch's fault. Do you know what I mean? There's something bigger happening here by Shakespeare. The other thing, again, Greek mythology, they are the agents of punishment. I mean, again, use it. You can actually use that in your creative writing as well. The agents of punishment. Think about what agent means. And then obviously punishment. Punishment is massive. Look what happens to Lady Macbeth. Look what happens to him because of their behaviour. They are punished. Disrupting the great chain of being, regicide. Okay? Absolutely loads in that single word. Harpy. The other thing, because I always encourage my grade 7 to 9s and my classes, you've got to move around the play. You want to show the examiner that you know the play, move around it. There is no point in telling me all about the witches at the start, then later on, because that's very staggered, it's very robotic. Move around confidently, move around concisely. So for me, I would then go to the Juggling Fiends. Okay, if we're doing a whole answer. The Juggling Fiends does loads for you, right? Fiend, as I've said, somebody working for Satan. It's linked to evil. Interesting spelling in the word friend as well, because it's very similar. But we want to look at juggling. Because actually now what happens, right, and I'm going to link you back to the Harpies in a minute, is they play with Macbeth. And arguably Lady Macbeth as well. And it's almost as if they're sniggering. What is the most famous story of the Harpies? And again, if you know Greek myth, you'll know it. It's Phineas. Okay? So what happens is Zeus gives Phineas the ability of the prophecy. Oh my God. Straight link to Macbeth. Prophecies. And he abuses this right. So, as always, his punishment is not only is he blinded, right, because he's blind is Phineas, all right? So that's already an issue in itself. The Harpies lay out a buffet of food for him. And they do a couple of things, all right? They drop feces on the food, they move the food away from him, and they taunt him. All right, it happens in Jason and the Argonauts, I think. And if I'm wrong, it's Clash of the Titans. They move the food away, or they drop feces on it, so he's consistently tortured and he never ever gets the food, really. So when we're talking about juggling and playing with somebody and punishing somebody, it's the Harpies and it's the witches. They're linked, aren't they? It's like they coincide with one another. The other key words in there, guys, Venom, right? And again, if you're tracking our play, poison is mentioned early on, isn't it? In Act 1, Scene 5, when Lady Macbeth's talking about pouring spirits in his ear and chastising with the tongue, and this idea of poisoning someone. And to me, it's like as the play progresses, it worsens, so the poison becomes venom. Now, I'm not a scientist by any means, so absolutely comment on this video and say, absolutely don't be ridiculous, Stacey. But poison to venom, it progresses, it worsens. So as the play progresses, things are worsening. Of course it is, because venom is deadly. All right, you need an antidote. They can't have the antidote because remember, they are in blood stepped in so far that there is no comeback now. So the venom, all right, it's kind of heightened what Lady Macbeth was doing earlier, if you like. Charmed is great because it'll take you across to Macbeth, I bear charmed life. But also if we look at the word charm, the root word charm, the idea that it's linked to incantation, it's linked to persuasion, it's linked to influence. If you charm somebody. It's weird as well, isn't it? Because there's a positive characteristic with that word. In the eyes of the witches, he's behaving positively because he's acting as their agent, isn't he? So that's an interesting one as well. And that is more so linked to spells And again, the interesting thing here, guys, is they don't actually put a spell on him, so to say, as is stereotypical of witches. Double Toil and Trouble is on my Instagram feed, so just have a scroll. It's a play on words by Macbeth, by Shakespeare. He's being very clever, because we would expect it to say double trouble, yeah? We would expect it to say double bubble, toil and trouble, but it says double. And we get duplicitous there, we get appearance versus reality, we get this idea of two sides of something, the serpent and the flower, a Satan and the snake, this idea of things not being as we think, which is interesting when we've already had the witches described as masculine and not inhabitants of the earth. Snake does itself. I mean, I don't need to go on about the snake anymore. It's on a million of my videos, linking across to Satan in the Garden of Eden. The original notion of a snake being the way we kind of link these stereotypical connotations. And we also get hell. Hell, again, does loads in this play. It's all over it. Key thing for me is the end of her. So there's a knocking at the gate. I actually would link that across to her. It's almost like she's at the gate where the Harpies are the guardians. Is she begging to be let in, or is she just let in because of her horrific behaviour throughout? Hell is murky. We've had heaven mentioned at the start. So again, how the play has progressed. And heaven, remember, hidden in the blanket of the dark, and all of that language that she gives us in her introduction. And now we've got this heavy language linked to the devil, linked to Satan, linked to hell, linked to blasphemous behaviour, if you like. Interesting as well is that the word blasphemous is in Act 4, Scene 1 by the witches. Yeah, and the blasphemy of Lady Macbeth and Macbeth almost knows no bounds here, because if they're blasphemous in their regicide and their defiance of God, so be it. But then Macbeth carries on, doesn't he? And obviously he goes off and gets Banquo killed. Then he goes even further with Macduff's family and children. So again, think about how far beyond the line of morality he actually goes. And this is where, and again, I apologise to the English teachers that are going to disagree with me here, because I'm going to make a bold statement. I don't ever feel sympathy for him, and I don't respect him as the tragic hero at the end of this play, but that is me. So you need to decide yourself. So you'll get critics and teachers that argue that he gains our respect at the end by dying on his shield. To me, it just doesn't work like that, but everybody's different. There's obviously more that we can see about the witches. So for instance, look on my other video, we've got Wired, the Weird Sisters, as I've said. We've got the goddess of the witches, I never pronounce it right, Hecate or Hecate, however you want to say it, but interesting that she is the goddess of the crossroads. Morality, immorality, good, evil, killing the king, not killing the king. They choose the wrong path. The brunt of this video, guys, was this massive word about the Harpies, because I think it's absolutely, I think it's wonderful by Shakespeare, but I am a fan of Greek mythology. I hope you all found this video useful. I'm doing Instagram Live and things like that, so please join on, tell your friends. Massive good luck in all of your studies, and I hope to hear from you all soon. Stay safe, guys. Thank you for tuning in.